Well connected everyone to 9.2's PTR build 42257. What we have in this build for today is a set of nerfs primarily to quite a few specs, because we have Feral, we have Guardian, we have some changes to Mistweaver, we have some changes to Frost Mage, some changes to Monk in their Covenant ability for Necrolord, etc, etc. Some of these are quite significant, so it is worth going over this set of changes for today. I guess it is worth to start with the standout change that happened to Feral Druid, because at first glance this looks like a massive nerf. Sickle of the Lion is the 4-piece set bonus for Feral Druid, which was previously, I guess, adjusted, hotfixed, you could say nerfed as well, because it used to do 700% of attack power bleed damage over 10 seconds, and then it was adjusted to do reduced damage beyond 8 targets. Still, if you were fighting 8 targets, it was still doing max damage anyways. Now, the actual nerf in place is that now, instead of doing 700% of your attack power as a bleed, it is now going to do only 320%. So this is an over 60% nerf of the damage of the 4-piece. Blizzard thought that the nerf was irrelevant, was massive enough to warrant some kind of explanation. They are saying that this tier bonus, this effect of this 4-piece set bonus, was set too high due to a bug that caused external power increases, such as mastery or other abilities that were increasing the damage of the Feral Druid, to double dip or even triple dip in the damage that this tier set bonus was doing. The damage reduction reflects the removal of those repeat benefits and bringing the damage in line with other set bonuses. That being said, regardless of how you look at it, even if we exclude the external buffs you are getting as Feral, this is still a significant nerf to the set piece, and it is also quite saddening, because one of the weaknesses, one of the ancestral weaknesses of Feral Druid is that they do not have very good AoE. They are always in this hypothetical situation where they are talking about, well, you know, if there is like 7 targets that can stay alive for 3 minutes straight, and I can get the time to put all my bleeds on all of them after 50 seconds, I actually do top AoE DPS. Yes, sure, buddy. Except this situation almost never happens and your AoE is shit, because it takes you too long. It takes you too long to get going. As a Feral Druid with all of your bleeds, it has been a very similar situation to Assassination Rogue and its need to place all of the dots on multiple targets. So this set bonus was kind of helping Feral Druid to get an initial burst of damage in AoE, and is now getting gutted significantly. There is also, staying with Druid, another seemingly big nerf to Guardian Druid, but this one is actually not as bad, because what the nerf reads, which is that the 4-piece of your tier set for Guardian, while you are in Berserk or in Incarnation, you radiate 26% of attack power damage instead of 45%, and you heal yourself for 39% of attack power instead of 61%. So you're getting nerfed by 32% in damage and 25% in healing for this tier set. However, there is a bailout for Guardian Druid, because, as it is said, these nerfs are to compensate the fact that the bonuses are now going to scale with buffs and legendaries. This very simply means that it is now going to be affected by things like haste. So the ticks that happen every second of this damage and healing can now happen faster based on your haste. It is going to get buffed by any source of damage increase you have or healing increase that you have. Things like, for example, uncheckered aggression of your conduits that you always use. This is going to make it by default ticking faster. Another thing could be something like conflux of elements. While you use Convoke the Spirits, you're getting more damage, and this is going to affect the 4-piece as well. Same can be said, for example, if you're using a legendary like Legacy of the Sleeper. While you are in Berserk, you gain 25% damage. That is also going to affect the tier set now. So In a lot of situations, even though the base damage and healing of the tier set has been nerfed, it is actually going to round up to be a buff, based on the extra effects and buffs you can get on yourself while you are using Incarnation. Another change is for the weird set bonus of Mistweaver. So Mistweaver has gotten gutted recently because it has received a halved uptime on their Ventier Covenant ability and Legendary, only getting their cooldown reduction at basically half the rate, 50% of the rate. Instead now they get a buff to their 4-piece, which was always kind of weird. The 4-piece was the one that made you spawn a rune after you drink your Thunder Focus Tea. If you stay within the rune, sort of like a rune of power, you are increasing all healing dealt while inside its bounds by 123. Now the base healing increase inside this rune is now 450. So it is a gigantic increase. It's like a over 300% healing increase, but that is also because this tier set was quite bad in the first place. There has also been a significant set of changes to the 2-piece of Discipline Priest, which was not very good after it was announced. It wasn't particularly exciting. It was the one that said casting Power Word Shield or Shadow Mend has a 15% chance to make your next cast of Shadow Mend have no cost or cast time. This is now getting a little bit more of utility to its effect, because now the free cast of this Shadow Mend is now going to grant 2 extra seconds of atonement to the target, up to a maximum of 16 seconds total of atonement. The duration of this buff of when you can get your free cast of Shadow Mend is going to go from 10 seconds to 20, so now you have even more time to save this free cast and use it when you actually need to extend your atonement duration. It is a nice set of changes just to give a little bit more utility to this 2-piece. It's not groundbreaking, it's not going to make this tier set massively powerful now, but at least now it does a little bit more than saving a little bit of your mana by giving you free casts of Shadow Mend. Now we have to move to the nerf of the day. Yeah, we have to move to the standout change of this PTR build for 9.2, which is to Frost Mage. So, first in line, Blizzard is going to do 12% of your spell power multiplied by 8 instead of 12.8%. This is going to even out to be a 5% damage nerf. There is also another nerf to Blizzard, which is the one where each time Blizzard deals damage, the cooldown of Frozen Orb is reduced by 0.25 seconds instead of 0.5. So it's a 50% nerf to the CDR you get on your Frozen Orb. There is also a nerf to the actual damage of Frozen Orb. Instead of doing 16.27% of your spell power damage multiplied by 20, it's now doing 15% of your spell power, which totals out to be an 8% nerf of the damage of Frozen Orb. And there is now also a correction, which can be pretty much a nerf, to the Conduit Icy Propulsion. Now, the cooldown reduction you can get from Icy Propulsion is going to have a 0.35 second cooldown, so it won't be able to happen multiple times within the same very small time frame. Now, since I come from the future, I can also tell you that this nerf Blizzard is planning to revert, but we don't exactly know the level of the nerf because they are saying, oh, you know what, after further consideration we will be reverting the Icy Propulsion ICD change, so now we can proc however many times you crit in very quick succession. However, we will instead further reduce the damage of Frozen Orb and Blizzard. So up to this point, Blizzard's damage has been nerfed by 5% and Frozen Orb by 8%. So we don't exactly know, we're not quite sure just how much, whatever plan nerf they have, in exchange to not getting Icy Propulsion nerfed instead. So, as it is quite self-explanatory, this is particularly aimed at AoE. The damage reduction to your Blizzard and your Frozen Orb are of course particularly effective in AoE. Getting reduced CDR on your Frozen Orb to your Blizzard and to the effect it can trigger with Icy Propulsion is of course going to be very important in AoE situations. Because, you know, in AoE this is pretty much your damage as a Frost Mage, so clearly Frozen Orb and Blizzard are what are what are going to be concentrated the most on when it comes to nerf. In single target it is not as important. It is still a nerf, of course, but not as big as your AoE power in Mythic Plus. The cooldown reduction of Frozen Orb was and kind of still is a problem in Mythic Plus. You know, Frozen Orb is supposed to have a 1 minute cooldown, and this is your mage in a Mythic Plus key, where you get to use Frozen Orb 5 times in 50 seconds. Now, I'm not good at maths, but 5 times in 50 seconds, it is a little bit more than 1 time every 60, at least I think. It was one of the main reasons, it still is, and likely still will be one of the main reasons why Frost Mage is so powerful in Mythic Plus in terms of their consistent AoE, straight up just because of Frozen Orb and Blizzard, and their continuous very high consistent damage they can do in AoE. So this is an attempt at curbing their AoE power. Now there is a question, of course, which is the fact that while it might have been good, it might have been reasonable to nerf Frost Mage's AoE damage, they might still have gotten some kind of compensation buff to their single target, because while we can agree their AoE damage is quite high, perhaps too high, what is also quite agreeable on is that their single target damage is quite low. So perhaps some type of compensation, some type of switch, taking away some of their AoE power in return of some more single target damage could have been a better solution than just to nerf their AoE. But that being said, these are all of the changes for this PTR's build, at the very least up to today. Perhaps we have more to come soon. We have gotten the more important changes around the nerfs to Feral Druid and to Frost Mage, definitely. There has been some slight, we can say, some slight buff to Discipline Priest's utility of the 2-piece, the buff to the straight up healing increase of the 4-piece of Mistweaver, and some slight possible buff depending on the power-ups you can give to yourself to Guardian Druid while they are in Incarnation. So, these were all of the changes for today. I'm gonna close the video by saying that Blizzard has now changed for the 4th time the title they want to give players who reach Hall of Fame for the next raid tier. Now, apparently they are settling for Famed Slayer of the Banished One. They started with Zovaal, they went back to the Jailer, and then Zovaal the Jailer, and now they are settling for the Banished One, I guess. So with this super important news about the Fame title, we can leave each other for today, for this Thursday, the precursor to the weekend, to the faction who believes the weekend starts on Friday. Thank you, of course, everyone, for watching the video and for helping to grow the channel. You can also do more by liking the video as well as commenting down below, and of course, perhaps one day you might even subscribe to the channel. For this video in particular, the subscribe button is going to be open to all of the specs that have not been nerfed in the last few days. It's not many, actually, I know. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, I like it. I like it when I wake up, I check what I have to do for the day, and I realize I don't have to go out. It's a pretty good feeling.